and welcome to Deals with Heels, where female entrepreneurs thrive. I'm Debra, your host. Welcome to the show. I'm so excited about today's episode. We are going to talk about breaking out of metaphorical boxes that keep us pinned down. And you guys know we talk about that all of the time, how we get all of these labels that we're expected to live up to. And we have the best guest. She is going to teach us how to bust out of all of those and get on our way. Her name is Betsy Pepine, and she is a best-selling author and serial entrepreneur. Her brokerage, Pepine Realty, has been on the Inc. 5,000 fastest-growing private companies list and the top 50 Florida companies to watch and to work for lists. The Wall Street Journal has recognized Betsy's real estate team as one of the top producing real estate companies in the United States. She's the author of the book, Breaking Boxes, Dismantling the Metaphorical Boxes That Bind Us. Welcome to Deals with Heels, Betsy.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
I am so happy to have you as a guest. So excited. I love just the name of your book and that whole metaphorical boxes. I don't think I've heard anyone really refer to it that way before, and I can't wait to dig in. I read just a little bit about kind of who you are and what you do, but I would love it if you would tell us a little bit more kind of how you got to where you are today.
Okay. Well, I started out in the pharmaceutical industry after I graduated and spent a decade there, and then switched careers, found myself suddenly single and unemployed. And my girls were 1 and 2. And I thought, well, that path wasn't really working for me. Let's explore something else. And so decided to pursue a passion that I've always had, which is real estate. And so moved back home. And when I say I moved back home, I literally moved back into my childhood bedroom. And my daughters were in my sister's, or what was my sister's bedrooms growing up down the hall. And I stayed at my parents' house for 6 to 7 months just to really regroup and rebuild really my life. And so anyway, I did that. That was 20 years ago, and just slowly started. I've always been an entrepreneur and just slowly started adding other companies to it. So I've got a title company and a real estate school and a property management company. And then what's most near and dear to my heart is our nonprofit, which helps address the affordable housing issue I'm in Florida. In Florida, we live in the highest cost burdened area in the state. And so the nonprofit provides housing for families at risk. So that's who I am today. You did mention the book. I wrote a book last year, and that book came about because I had found myself, I'm 56, and I had found myself in my mid 40s starting to feel discontent. And felt like, well, one, it took me a while to even admit that to myself because I didn't feel like I had the right to be discontent. You know, we see so much worse out there, people suffering. And so I didn't feel like I had the right to be unhappy. But finally, when I did admit that, and I started reading and journaling and meditating and going to therapy, a whole bunch of different modalities, I recognized the common thread of my discontentment throughout my life really was when I had this feeling of confinement and
that trapped feeling.
Yeah, you know, I remember I ordered a mattress from Amazon one time, and it arrived at my door, and it's in this box, you know, like 1.5 by 1.5 box. I'm like, yeah, I ordered a king size mattress. How does that fit in that box? And you know, you open up the box, and then 3 days later, the mattress has expanded to this.
I have a Nectar. I got a Nectar one like that, and it like explodes out of it. It's
right.
The best mattress I've ever had. Oh, I love that thing. I should be an affiliate for them.
But that's what I felt. But I felt like I was the mattress still in the box, just stuffed in. And so confined, and I couldn't express who I truly was for fear of rejection, of non-acceptance, of status change, you know, all these things that the ego tells us that we need. So I started dismantling them. And when I would talk to other people, especially women, found that we all have our own boxes that we find ourselves in throughout our lives. Some we consciously go in, some we don't. Some we're not even aware that we're in, but they may not be working for us. And so I wrote the book just to help other women explore that in their own lives and help them take the steps they deem necessary to start exiting some of those boxes that no longer serve.
And one of the things that I've said multiple times, y'all don't come at me, I know I've said this before. We're born, we're given immediately a label with our name and a religion and community. All of the things were given. We didn't choose those things. And then if you don't feel like you fit in those, it's from a young age even, it can be really hard to break out of even those initial ones. But then you go to school and friends have boxes and there's this box over here. I want to be in that box. How do I get trapped in that box? That's part of it too. Some of it's like there's a box over there I think I need to be in. And we don't all the time, right?
Yeah. And you're right. I mean, I was reading this study where they interviewed people in the maternity ward and asked to describe the newborn that was just born in their room and the stark differences in adjectives used to describe the baby that was just born based only on knowing its gender. They know nothing about this child but their gender. And suddenly it's cute, precious, soft, or strong and, all these stereotypical masculine characteristics. And they don't know this child at all. And now with the gender reveals, when you and I had children, we didn't have gender reveal, but now there are these gender reveals. And even that, it does bug me because I'm like, we're starting it even earlier when we have these gender reveals because we're automatically then, because it must mean something to know the gender when it really doesn't tell us much at all until we get to know the person.
And it shouldn't tell us, right? I mean, I understand wanting to get a girl gift or a boy gift or wanting to decorate your nursery, but you're starting with a label and you're celebrating a label from the beginning. And we've just moved so far away from that. And labels have caused us as women, especially.
Yes.
So many labels about our appearance and if we have kids and if we don't have kids and all of the judgments and all of those things are all boxes we need to get out of. And I'm sure there's some, we have our community box and I suppose there are good ones too, right? That are serving us. It just doesn't sound right.
Or they serve us at some point in our lives. I mean, the danger of any kind of box to me is that when you slap a label on something, you stop seeing them. And that's the problem because you really do. I remember, and I talk about this in the book, is I used to take my kids when they were very little. We would walk along this path and I would stop and show them all the different trees. It was a beautiful path. And we would look at the different trees, the barks, the different shapes of the leaves, the different colors. I mean, we've got pine needles here versus palm trees, like all these different variants. And then once I taught them the word tree, then it was like when I tried to stop and explore the trees, they would pull me along. Mom, we already know it. It's just a tree. And that's what we do with people. The minute you know somebody is a policeman, you automatically assume something, good, bad, whatever. You don't know anything other than what that person is doing for an occupation to make money. You don't know anything about that person. And so that to me is the danger, is that a label then is a shortcut to really getting to know what's inside.
Right. It's the, the sign when you're driving by. You assume what kind of a business it is based on the sign and the graphics that are on it or the color that's on it or all of those things. And you're right. All of those things are so dangerous. It's hard to escape it, though, on a day-to-day basis, I think. Just in general, for navigating through. I think our brain just likes what's familiar. But assuming all of those assumptions about everyone around us, even though it helps, I mean, I do, psychology of selling, and we make a lot of assumptions about people when we use that. And it's crazy how accurate they can be. But honestly, it's real surface level, and it's more based on how you like to communicate rather than who you are as a person.
Yeah.
When you think about that.
Right.
I mean, it does say a lot about somebody, but it doesn't say about who they are deep inside, right? You may be somebody who loves the bottom line, never wants to be late, is always super loyal, and hey, I got 15 minutes left for you. And that's it, because you didn't get here. You may know that about that person so that I can communicate and sell better to them, but that doesn't tell us what they like to read and who they are when they're relaxed and they aren't chasing people down to make them do their paperwork accurately and all of the things. So that getting to know somebody on that deeper level, what kind of tips do you have for kind of reaching in and pulling that out of yourself, deciding which boxes you belong in? And
well, it's interesting. I actually, I don't try too hard to get in boxes. I try to extricate myself out of boxes. And that's hard, when people know you to be a certain way and then you decide to change or consciously make a move. I was in I was in the pharmaceutical industry. I was in the pharmaceutical industry because I had extreme pressure as a child to be a physician. And my dad was a physician. I grew up working with him, my sisters as well. Both of my sisters were physicians. We went to college and we were all pre-med. There was just this natural assumption that we would be a physician. But furthermore, anything other than a physician the messaging was definitely, you are less than if you chose, if you don't, there's some reason why, some flaw if you're not a physician. And so when I decided not to be a physician, and I had to break that to my parents in college, that was an incredible turning point for me, because I definitely lost status in my family, in my parents' eyes, for not choosing that route. So I wanted out of that box.
I mean, a lot of physicians have that, or children of physicians. And so my oldest daughter is in her residency. So she graduated from medical school a couple of years ago. And what I will tell you, everybody, is that when they have graduation, they call it, is it collaring? Where they put the, So they put the doctorate collar over when they graduate, kind of like turning the tassel on your hat when you do it, on your cap when you, on lower degrees, which are awesome too. But half of my daughter's class, they were collared by a relative or a mentor, and you have to be a doctor to do it. And so it seemed evident to me then that it is something that has a tendency to be passed into a family of being a physician. And it wasn't that I felt less, that none of us were able to out there to collar her, but I made a note that it was definitely something that I hadn't seen before. And of course, I'm a study of people and all of that. So it was curious to me. And now I can see from you, there's definitely kind of a pressure there too.
Yeah, there was. And I'm sure some of it was on myself, but there was a lot of pressure. So
but you felt it too you felt like,
I did, and I felt it for years after.
Woman.
Yeah,
that's what I was wondering. Was it you felt, oh my gosh, they're going to think of me less, and so you really built that up, or now that you're through those triggers and out of that box, was it accurate, or was it in your mind? Did they actually do it, or was it in?
Well, no, I did lose that. I mean, when I told my parents I was going to be a realtor, my mom, and please know, I'm so grateful for the upbringing that I had. And my parents only wanted the best for me. And they thought being a physician would be the best thing for their children. And they were willing to support it financially. Like, they made it very easy for that to happen to me if I wanted it. So I understand that blessing.
Oh, and we all do that to our kids. We don't realize what we do.
Yeah.
to mess them up. It's not a slight against her parents for wanting her to be a doctor.
It's funny because when I told my parents, so I'm 37 now, and I tell my parents I'm going to be a realtor, which requires a 1-week class online and a very short test.
That a lot of people fail, by the way.
They do. That's true. They do. So my mom like pats me on the shoulder and said, Betsy, you go ahead and do what you need to do. Just know that you can't be our realtor. And I was like, oh my gosh, like what? She's like, well, you remember when we bought this house, this is the house that I'm living in. She's like, we would use her. And I said, Mom, that was 40 years ago. And she said, I know, but she sends us a box of chocolate every Christmas. And I thought, you know what? For a box of chocolate, that woman got the most loyal customer ever. So if that's all it takes to succeed in real estate, I'm going to do just fine.
I think, yes. And I think it's generational, right? Your parents are kind of my age.
Yeah.
And so there's a loyalty thing there. We're back in that, not to the boomers with the handshake deals, but it's definitely a little bit different of loyalty. You expect that from a company, but boy, your parents, they really take it. Plus they're like, well, the doctor world, once you have a doctor, you keep them. We're doing the same.
Right. That's true. I hadn't thought about that, but that's very true.
Yeah. So, but they were very supportive, and now uber successful. They have to be completely proud of you.
They are. Yeah. But for me, honestly, that's like, it's like another box. It's like and that's what I've struggled with, is that I always felt like I had to prove to them that I was worthy. And they are proud of me now, but they weren't when I had made that decision and I was a nobody in real estate. And so that's what's, that's what hurts,
It is, but that's on them, right?
Totally.
Yeah. But you didn't then. You were like, please just tell me, you go, girl. Just please see me. Please see me.
Yeah.
Open the box and see my little face in there.
Yeah.
Well, so successful. And I love how, because let's face it, it's hard to scale your business as a real estate agent because you got to be licensed in every state. And then you kind of, you have to kind of be there. You can franchise brokerages that somebody else runs, but why would they do that if they're, all of the things. And I love that you've gone out, you've got a title company, right? So you've branched out in the areas that you can grow that are still within that real estate umbrella, and kind of gives you a little bit more control over a deal sometimes too, because
absolutely. Yeah. And we're, it's one-stop shopping for agents and for our customers, our buyers and our sellers. So that was the goal. I thought to myself, well, because I do get bored easily. Once I had the brokerage, I'm like, okay, what else can I do? And I was like, well, how can I serve the people that are already coming to us? And by offering the services that they have to use to buy the house or to get licensed. That's why I have the real estate company, or the real estate school. So that's just been a natural extension of my business, and it's been just wonderful.
And every section serving as a lead magnet. So I'm a marketing person, so here your school serves as a lead magnet for your brokerages. You can get agents under you. Mm-hmm. And then all of that brings the buyers and sellers to your title company. You just got to now you just need a mortgage company.
I had mortgage. I had it for 5 years. I closed it. That was an interesting project, but no, I closed it. And I'm so glad, because that was the only time I've ever done a franchise. I bought into a franchise and it was just not for me. The model wasn't for me. And I closed it and created a preferred service provider program. So we have select mortgage lenders that work with us, and then we're like a team. And so I have the benefits of in-house mortgage, but I don't have the liability.
Yeah, because I ran mortgage well before early 2000s, long time ago.
Okay.
And there's just so much changing throughout that. And it's great to have somebody to partner with that'll shoulder all of the hassles on that side, right? Because it's hard enough on the sales side, on the real estate side, to keep it all going. So I completely understand that.
Yeah.
I also, something that I saw, I think on your website, and I was like, now, how did she get that? How did you get Barbara to
Barbara
mentor
Corcoran?
you? Yes, to mentor you. So Barbara from Shark Tanks, ladies,
Yes. So,
is
and she's
Betsy's mentor, and I am blown away.
so the gentleman that at the time, this was 8 or 9 years ago, I do a lot of television and radio ads. And I was using an agency up in New York City to buy my media.
Okay.
And so he reached out to me and said, are you interested in this opportunity? And I was like, oh my gosh, I had been following Barbara for years. You know, I just love so much about her. She started in real estate. She got divorced. Her first husband took the business. She had to rebuild from the ground up again, built it into one of the highest producing companies in New York City, then sold it. Then she rebranded herself because at the time she was only known in real estate, but she knew if she wanted longevity, she needed to be broader. And so she applied for Shark Tank, and they actually almost didn't give it to her. And she wrote them a letter and told them why she needed to reconsider. So they let her come out to interview, and she got it. And I love seeing her expansion. She's in her mid-70s, and it's just very inspiring to see that. I mean, one of the reasons that I got into real estate in the first place was I recognized that there's no glass ceiling for women in real estate. There's so many 85-year-old realtors running around this town doing really well. Oddly, I think age is almost an asset in this industry because people want to entrust their largest purchase with someone that looks like they've purchased a home before, old enough to purchase a home before, right? It's difficult. I feel bad because I do have I call them kids because my kids are even older than these kids, but I have some kids that start at 18, 19, 20 with us. It's an uphill battle because it's clear that they most likely have never purchased a home. Some of them still live with their parents. Some of them are still in college. So it's a profession that's really served us well.
It suits you too, right? I can just totally feel and see that from you.
I do love it.
I can tell that you can. I love Barbara in her mid-70s, the vitality.
I know.
I feel that starting over in my 50s. I have a long ways to go, and it's inspiring to see her be able to have the energy and to run her business and be ambitious still. Fantastic. You worked with somebody who saw your potential and thought, I got to get this to happen.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Tell me a little bit about your book.
So the book is a compilation of stories about different boxes I found myself in throughout my life and how I either navigated them well or not so well. And also just suggestions on how to start taking the steps necessary to, if you want to exit a box, to do that. And also the recognition of, we're not innocent. We kind of alluded to earlier. We put other people in boxes that we don't even realize we're doing it, and perhaps it's detrimental to them, and we don't even know it. So it's not just woe is me. It's a universal issue.
So as we kind of get a little bit closer to the end, what are some tips that you can give us for one, recognizing we're in a box, but really, what are our first steps to bust out of them?
Yeah. So, the first thing you have to do is recognize the box you're in. And that could take a while. Usually your body tells you before your mind tells you that something's not in alignment. But once you know you want to make a move, usually what stops people, including myself, is fear. And it's fear of failure or fear of some kind of loss. So loss of social status, loss of social connection, or a financial loss. So I try to tackle which one or a combination of those that's holding me back. Fear of failure for me is another box. That is a human construct, a mental construct. You do not see, I just saw a dog walk by you. you do not see dogs contemplating if they failed today. They don't. Nobody, no other animal species contemplates that but humans. So it doesn't exist except for in our minds. And so I've just chosen not to have it in my life. And when I look at something, I think, what is the worst that can happen if I take this path? The worst that can happen is that it doesn't go as I anticipated, and I have to pivot. And I learned a great lesson that I can use moving forward for the rest of my life. That's worst case scenario. I can live with that. That's not so bad. When I actually, and I do write it down because I find fears can just manifest and feel so overwhelming. But when you actually write down what's holding you back, it's usually tackable. It's minor. You look at it and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that's holding me back. So that's what I do. So if it's failure, it's that. If it's a fear of a status, that to me is just an ego, and I separate myself. Like, the ego can be very, annoying at times. And it's like, I say to myself, Betsy, put your ego on the shelf and move forward. Don't let it impact you. And that has helped me in so many ways. And when you can recognize it's your ego and you are not your ego, you can make some really good decisions and have the courage to do things that you wouldn't normally have, because you know that it has nothing to do with you. It's your ego. If it's a fear of loss of social connection, which is a very real one, because when you start moving the chess pieces, the whole game changes, right? And so if someone's used to you being a certain way and now you're moving out of that way in whatever realm of your life you're moving in, that's going to cause friction for some people. And so usually your social network will change a little bit. I think that's I think there are necessary endings in our lives. It's normal. I think that we don't normalize that. I know you and I both have had marriages that have come to completion, right? It doesn't mean they failed. They've finished what they were meant to do for us, and both parties moved on. So I think if we can reframe things in more gentle ways, it can give us courage to.
My dogs are loose. Hang on. I thought they were going to be okay, but they busted in, everybody.
Oh, yeah, I saw the one guy walk.
They're girls. They won on the show. My girl dog wants on the show. That's all we'll say.
But so just trying to understand exactly what the fear is, dismantling that fear. And then I like to break down whatever goal I want to reach, really chunk it down into little baby steps. I mean, it's literally, Betsy, spend 15 minutes a day moving towards X. And that's usually enough movement for me to give me momentum.
I love that. And it definitely helps to write it down, because a lot of times in my mind, I'll have something blown up and it's keeping me, that fear is keeping me from starting it. But if I really write down the steps to do it, there's not that many of them, right? It's not going to be that bad. And it helps just to get out of fight or flight, to help you. I spent a long time in functional freeze and the grounding exercises that bring me out of that. It is paralyzing. That's why it's called freeze. That's why the deer literally can't run out of the road. It's stopped during the headlines. It does feel like that. So all of those tips are really awesome. And, like all episodes, everybody, when you have a good guest, they go really fast. We are coming to the end. Tell us, Betsy, how can our audience find out more about your real estate company, your school, and how to buy your book and get in touch with you if they want to?
Sure. So the company is pepinerealty.com. So we have a website. You can get to the school from the website as well, or it's the Real Estate School of North Central Florida.com. My personal website is my name, betsypepine.com. You can get my book there, but it's also on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and all the major online bookstores. And then I'm on all the social channels just with my name, Betsy Pepine. So Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn.
Yeah. Well, what a world of knowledge and experience you have. I mean, such a joy to have you on the show. Everyone, I will have links to all of Betsy's stuff in our show notes, along with links where you can download my free ebook, 5 Steps to Having a Successful Mindset, and my website and all of that. Please reach out. Let me know what you thought of the episode. So great to have you, Betsy.
Thank
Can't
you, Deb.
wait to check out your book and see all of the great places that you go. Everyone, see you next week. We're out.